Hey, thank you for joining me on this Ask Katrina. The question is, hey, Katrina, will I ever feel like I've done enough? Right? Man, how many times have we asked ourselves that exact question? Am I doing enough? Have I done enough? When will it be enough? Right? Well, I want you to think about this, okay? Because that's a big question. But let's go through this thought process. Typically, what you're asking yourself when you ask yourself this question, it's typically around your career. Okay. It's your professional life. You're striving and you're driving and you're pushing and you're trying to get to a certain seat, or you're trying to, get this promotion, this pay raise, this next something. You're trying to get something. Or you're there and you're just trying to keep it. Okay. So it's either you're trying to get there or you're there and you're just trying to keep what you've got. But either way, you're fighting. In your mind, you're fighting for something. You're fighting to get something that you want or that you need. So I ask, and I have conversations with women, and I hear them asking themselves, when do I get to stop sacrificing? When do I get to stop missing out on things? When does that happen? Right? When will it be enough? And what I want you to step back and think about is this. Why is enough tied to your career? In other words, I think you're asking the wrong question. I know that I asked the wrong question. I know that I used to ask very similar questions than this one. And I asked the wrong question because I tied my worth, I tied my life permission, I tied all of those things, the ability to live and enjoy and just simply be. I tied all of that to my professional life. That was where I felt like my worth was tied to. And so I want you to look within yourself. That's the first thing I want you to do. And I want you to seek to understand if you've tied your worth to the professional side of your career. Meaning, you're not allowed to live until you perform. You're not allowed to live until you reach a certain seat. You're not allowed to live until you can maintain a certain status for X number of years and make this much money and impact this many people. You just won't let yourself do that. There's no one else preventing you from doing it. It's you. So is your worth tied to your professional life? The answer, if you're saying, is it ever enough? The answer is most likely yes. Okay. So then the question is, well, how do I stop? Right? Like now I recognize it. Now I'm seeing it. I should be able to live and enjoy and have whatever life I want to live while also executing correctly, right? Executing correctly doesn't mean that I then get to live. I can learn how to exec. I can exec and I can live. It's an and. So we talk about it. It's an and life. We get both. So at what point will you know that it's enough? And so the answer to that, outside of the fact that now you're giving yourself permission to live, is the other P that we talk about here in Legend Leaders. We talk about 4 of them. This is the second phase of the 4 Ps that I'm talking about here. And if you want to check this out, I've done a whole podcast series on it. We're actually in the middle of it this month. So the second phase of the 4 Ps is performance to then go to permission. I just talked about the permission. I just talked about the fact that if you eliminate and pull away your self-worth and don't tie your personal worth and value and worthiness to your professional career, then you're going to feel like things are enough. Okay? Just that's the first step, is just realizing that it's tied together. So that then if things aren't 100% perfect at work, that's okay, because you are still enough. We don't need you feeling less than. Okay? So let's separate the link. The next thing that you've got to think about is the performance, right? Because again, you're asking yourself, why is this not enough? Because you think you're not performing. And so then what has to happen for you to truly exec correctly is to have a high performance executive brand. That is always going to be the answer, is to have a high performance executive brand. You've got to create it and then you've got to strengthen it. And your brand is made up of 2 components. It's made up of what the company values combined with your unique ability to add value in a way that only you can. That's what makes it a brand. It's yours. Okay? When you are performing, truly performing at the level the company wants you to perform, then your executive brand is on point. You're going to know it's enough because you're doing the right things at the right times. You're adding value in a way in which the company has defined, and you're doing it in a way that only you can do it, using your gifts. So let me come back around because I talked about a couple of different components. Let me put a bow on this thing, okay? If you're asking yourself, why do I feel like I'm never doing enough? When is it ever going to be enough? And it's specifically linked to your professional life. The first thing you've got to understand is that you're probably doing a lot of busy work. We've talked about that before, okay? You're doing busy work, but you're not adding value. You need to fix your brand. It's a must. So let's get your brand adjusted. Let's create the brand that's truly a high-performing executive brand. That's step one. When you have that high-performing executive brand, you are performing, you are executing correctly. That then gives you permission to live. What I'm telling you to do is you don't have to wait to feel like you're executing correctly to live. Go ahead and release yourself from that trap and recognize that your identity and your self-worth is not tied to your professional performance. It's tied to just who you are at your core. And you are a whole lot of things besides your professional career. Okay? So there is the long answer, but the answer nonetheless.